scientific information been generated in the recent past. Even the SAPCC document of J&K, I would rather start to understand what has gone between the time they came out with the first SAPCC report and today where it stands, do some kind of gap analysis to see what worked and what didn't. To me, entering the second phase of State Action Plan on Climate Change, that's a very critical thing to kind of take a re-look at it to see what works and what didn't. So, there are umpteen number of ways to sound hydrological models, river monitoring systems, recharging of regeneration capacity of the lakes. These are critical things in the J&K context. And again, time and again, another important thing is how to mainstream these things within the ongoing development programs. There are lots of lip service has been said, talked about in mainstreaming, integration of, everybody realizes the value of it. But, it's important to understand where the linkages are, what the state needs. For example, we did a study in Madhya Pradesh recently and Uttarakhand, those two states, looking at how, these are two successful states, very good examples what we have. At least, if not the whole system has been mainstreamed, at least these in certain sectors like livestock and forestry in Uttarakhand and livestock in Madhya Pradesh. There are lots of lessons to be learned from those experiences. And coordination becomes a very key, because sectorally, these are compartmentalized, as you know. That's the way the state is set up. So it's important to understand there are different tools, decision-making tools to bring harmony, to bring harmony into the decisions what they make. So, for example, if you take agriculture, agriculture is one all-encompassing sector. We cannot talk agriculture without water or markets. So it is important to understand what kind of impact a particular action has agriculture vis-a-vis water. There are emerging tools to understand these dynamics. So I would rather, science definitely it should be science-led, and also people's movement is also, citizen science is also very critical. I know one of the important things what we miss out is, when you talk about adaptive capacity, is a function of finance, technology, and one of the important things what we miss out is in social capital. This country has shown the world how we could really re-emerge and collect ourselves after a disaster and come back. So social capital is one completely underplayed, and we have not really put a value to that. So I would rather emphasize that that has to be studied well and see what context, what operates, and how we really want to strengthen that. So another thing is, at the global level, there is a lot of thrust on big infrastructure. Yes, that's needed, to climate-proof those infrastructure. But also, it's important not only to have a bird's eye view, it is also important to have a toad's eye view in terms of understanding how it plays out at the local level. Adaptation is very much local, as you all know, and it's very local and it's very complex. So I think it is also important to pay attention to culverts, stone walls. There are small infrastructures, rural roads. These are oftentimes this is missed out in the discourses. So and create certain ownerships at the local level, which will certainly pay rich dividends. I think both anticipatory research and participatory processes are very important. So investment in science is very critical at the same time. Trying to understand, because the sense of history is important when you talk about adaptation. We cannot completely uproot a system and design a new system when you talk about adaptation. So it becomes critical to understand how people have been, what are the ways of life, what are the main livelihood mainstays. So we have to really look at those things to design anything so that it is very much, by that you create a local ownership. Now that is very important in the long run, because there are lots of trade-offs when you talk about adaptation, long-term versus short-term. So today's adaptation, maybe tomorrow it might become maladaptation. So how do you kind of deal with this problem? There are lots of dilemmas. It's easy to, sit here and say these things, but it is at the ground level. That's why the repository of knowledge, the institutional memory are very critical for us to build a good resilience platform. Again, about policy practices, I touched a bit about this. So no policy is made in vacuum, particularly in the context of resilience. It is more critical because it crosses boundaries. And again, climate change doesn't recognize boundaries, as you know. And so regional approach is also critical. That's why when you talk about finance, the green climate funds, people know the existence of these things and they understand the vocabularies of it. But the training and capacity building is very, very critical. People to understand what climate projections mean, what the scenarios mean to them. So it should be demystifying science is also another critical component to bring the interface between science and policy. So I think lots of work has to be done, and I am really two sectors that really are coming out very clearly: tourism and horticulture, two important sectors for J&K. A lot of good work has been done. We have to really look at how to take it to the next level. There is a transformative changes to bring those transformative changes. How this incremental adaptation activities count is certainly a question and point. I'm no expert in all these things. I'm more of a journalist view I'm giving you. But a lot of things have been said from yesterday, which has lots of relevance, particularly in the tourism sector. Like waste management becomes a very, very critical issue there, and we need to promote this ecotourism in a way that it's very sustainable and the livelihoods are saved despite climate change. This is development despite climate change. That's the kind of a dialogue what we're having here. It is hard, and unless people gear up to that, and science will aid this in a larger way. I believe in science, and particularly the nature-based solutions. What I've been talking about, we're revisiting, going the old ways. It's a cycle. Professor Ramanathan always says, this is a cycle. At that point in time, green revolution was needed to feed the billion mouths in this country, and then we need to cool the earth and go back. And nature-based solutions has provided wonderful examples. I'm quite inspired by the book Professor Khosla wrote about the biomimics. Every student has to read this one. It's a fantastic. There's so much to learn from the web of nature to kind of live sustainably. I'll stop here, sir. That's.
Thank you, Nambi. Now, maybe I.